Greetings, everyone. Welcome to November. Yeah. Welcome to the meat of the autumnal season. I love that word, autumnal. I'm going to be using lots of those nice big words, as my sister-in-law would call them, $20 words today, because we are going to be not only reviewing one of my favorite episodes of The X-Files, but the very first X-Files mythology episode that I have ever reviewed before. And as it would have it, I think it's a great way to kick off us reviewing the mythology episodes because it's my favorite mythology episode, and that is the very last episode of season 2, and it is called Anasazi. For those of you who have never watched The X-Files before, Anasazi is an episode that doesn't get a lot of attention among people who have a casual acquaintance with The X-Files, but it is a big fucking deal among fans of The X-Files. It's pointed out a lot when people talk about X-Files mythology episodes. Now, if you're unfamiliar with The X-Files, first of all, welcome. Bienvenido. But the X-Files can be divided into two... X-Files episodes can be divided into two categories. There are the, quote, Monster of the Week episodes, and those are like self-contained, standalone episodes where Mulder and Scully, like, blow into a town, spooky shit happens, and then 45 minutes later, they're back on the path to Washington, and everyone lives not so happily ever after. The mythology episodes, the quote mythology episodes, are the ones that pertain to the overarching plot line that runs throughout the show about alien shit and the federal government's connection to that. Now, that being said, X-Files fans usually divide into two camps. One of them usually prefer the Monster of the Week episodes over the mythology episodes. And I, because I love being difficult, I am different. Also, cheers. Today I am drinking a cherry Pepsi with Jack Daniel's Fireball whiskey. Oh, and it's very lovely. So, love cherry Pepsi. Probably one of my favorite drinks. So, of course, I'm difficult. And I love Monster of the Week episodes. Some of my favorite episodes are Monster of the Week episodes. But, that being said, I cannot completely write off the X-Files mythology episodes. X-Files mythology episodes become very convoluted, and in the end, they pretty much ruin the show. Or I should say, the showrunner, he who shall not be named, Mr. Chris Carter, he ruins the show, because he's a very poor writer, as we shall see. But, or as we've already seen, I suppose. But, that being said, I cannot write off the X-Files mythology episodes because there's some really great ones. They have amazing character moments. They tell amazing stories. They have amazing atmosphere. And some of them, like this one, I would say Anasazi is the gold standard of X-Files mythology episodes. I first watched it when I was 12 years old with my best friend Jenny. And I've watched it probably 100 times since then. And every time I watch it, it's a vibe. I mean, like, I'm taken right back to 1995, you know. And, like, you know, it's everything I want in an X-Files episode. It's spooky. It has a lot of conspiracy shit. Has a lot of alien shit. It has some wonderful Mulder and Scully moments. And the side characters are so fucking good. And not just the recurring ones, like Krychek and the Lone Gunman and Smoking Man and Skinner, but the other side characters that are contained within this arc. We'll talk about them in a little bit. So let's dive right into it. This is also an episode that has a lot of cute trivia attached to it. If you hear people talk about it, they'll usually mention the rocks. The setting for this episode, most of it is in New Mexico. Of course, this was filmed in Vancouver, British Columbia. And Chris Carter got all these people like to paint these fucking rocks in a quarry red. And it was one of those things, like, I didn't know it when I was a kid, and someone pointed it out to me when I was an adult, and now I can't unsee it. But also the tagline, usually in the title credits, at the end you see the lightning, and it says "The truth is out there," and it says "The truth is out there" in Dene language. Sometimes Dene, I guess people have called them Navajo. I believe the correct terminology for that culture is Dene, and I'm going to be calling them Dene because I definitely want to talk respectfully about cultures that are not my own. So that's what I'm going to be calling them from here on out in this vlog. So let's dive right into it. One thing, my spouse and I were watching this today, and one thing I didn't notice, my spouse didn't grow up watching the X-Files like I did, but he really got into it when we got married because, of course, he did. I don't think he could be married to me for any amount of time without watching some X-Files. And he was like, a lot happens in this episode, and I was like, yeah, I didn't realize how much does. A whole fucking lot happens. There is a tropical storm blowing through, and we have a metal roof, so just bear with me, please. So I'm trying to talk loud so you can actually hear me. This episode is about 49 minutes long, and I kind of forget it. It feels like it goes on for hours because, like, it's not boring. It's just like a whole fucking lot happens. It's one of those X-Files episodes I don't get bored with. It's just from at the end, I always like let out a breath I've been holding. Like, it's just that wild of a ride. And this is the beginning of a trifecta of episodes. It's this episode, Anasazi, The Blessing Way, and Paperclip. Those are my 3 favorite mythology episodes. I think a lot of that is the nostalgia that's attached to it. Watching this for the first time back in 1995 with my best friend Jenny and my older cousins. Like, I think a lot of that's attached to it, but it's also just a fucking good episode. So let's dive right into Anasazi now that we've got all of that out of the way at almost 9 minutes. This is going to be one of those long ones. So the episode begins with the Hostine family. There's this old man. His name is Albert Hostine, and he is played by my favorite actor of all time, forever and ever and a day, and that is Floyd Red Crow goddamn Westerman. If you don't know him by name, he played Chief Tinbears in the movie Dances with Wolves, which is one of my favorite movies. He also had this role in the show Dharma and Greg, which is one of my favorite shows. That's a great episode. If you don't know what I'm talking about, watch Dharma and Greg, the episode with Floyd Red Crow Westerman. It's just, it's fantastic. It's so good. He is, I believe Floyd Red Crow Westerman is Lakota Sioux. If I'm wrong, please correct me. And he is so good. He's one of those actors like Leonard Nimoy or Morgan Freeman he could talk me into oncoming traffic. I mean, like, his voice, he makes everything sound dramatic. He's like Morgan Freeman. I want him to narrate my life. Like, I'm fucking walking in the kitchen to make toast, or I'm in line at the bank. I just want Floyd Red Crow Westerman to narrate what I'm doing. Like, she walked into the kitchen and she made some toast. Okay. That's what I want. A lot of people want Morgan Freeman to narrate their life. I want Floyd Red Crow Westerman to narrate my life. So, it opens with this man, Albert Hosteen, played by Floyd Red Crow Westerman, at a Diné reservation in New Mexico. I believe close to Farmington, New Mexico. And you see this boy played by Dakota House. We'll talk about all these side actors in a minute. They're just so good. And he wakes up. There's like an earthquake. He wakes up and he tells his dad and his grandpa, played by Floyd Red Crow Westerman, that he's gonna go out riding on his motorbike. And let's take a minute to talk about this family. I love the Hosteen family so much that I wrote a fanfic about them. Like, I always said, like, the mark of a great story is when you want to hang out with the characters, and these three, I want to hang out with them. They're just interesting. I forget they're actors and they're not related. They have this wonderful bond in their spoken and unspoken language. It's just, you can really believe that they're a father and a son and a grandpa. I wish the episode focused on them, and I'll get to why in just a minute. I'll talk about that. The grandpa tells his grandson Eric. He says, like, what does he say? He says, "Leave the snakes alone today. They will be angry and afraid." Again, like, just the little touches these actors give to their characters are so believable and good. The boy, Eric, kind of tosses his head and, like, he's like, yeah, sure, whatever, Grandpa. The crazy but wise old man trope, like Rafiki in The Lion King, or Grandma Tala in Moana. Like, I love that trope where it's like this old person is wise and they know all the answers, but they're also a little bit bananas. I love it. And again, it's communicated between the grandfather and the grandson. Like, he's like, yeah, Grandpa says cryptic stuff all the fucking time. But then the Hosteen's son, I'm assuming it's his son. It's Eric's father. He looks at him and he says in the Diné language, he's like, what's going on? You know, he obviously knows something's up. And Albert says, there's a secret the earth wants to tell. And Eric goes off into the desert and he goes into the quarry of painted red rocks. Which are fucking fantastic. A lot of people own memorabilia from the X-Files, like the doll from Chinga or Scully's cross necklace. I want to own one of those rocks. That's my memorabilia dream as an X-Files fan. So Eric goes to this quarry and he sees something. Excuse me, I'm still getting over this cold. He sees this bit of metal at the bottom of the quarry. He wipes it off from the red dust and he sees that it is a buried train car. And the next scene, you see all the kids from the reservation. They're gathered around something, and Dad and Grandpa come walking out, and Grandpa says in the Diné language, he's like, you need to take this back. Also another great touch. The boy, like, looks at his dad and he's like, what did he say? And it's, again, like, these actors, man, they're so good. I'll get to, like Dakota House. God, I wish he was in more stuff. Like, holy shit, he's so good. He has maybe a handful of lines in this episode, and he is acting circles around David Duchovny. And I know I say that about every actor in every episode, but holy shit, man, like, it's so good. He's such a good actor. He looks at his dad and he's like, what did he say? And you kind of get this impression, like, maybe he's not as familiar with the Diné language as his dad or his grandpa. Or maybe grandpa's just being super cryptic again, you know, as grandpas are wont to be. His dad translates and he says, they will be coming. And it pans to what everyone's looking at, and it is this very alien-looking mummified corpse. That image of that mummified corpse is like one of the iconic shots when you think about the X-Files. That's one of the shots, especially related to the mythology episodes. Like, that's one of the pictures that comes to mind. So you get the credits, and then you meet one Kenneth Suna in Dover, Delaware, and it's kind of cute. First of all, he looks a lot like Kurt Cobain. Just want to point that out. Got that ratty kind of shaggy blonde hair, stubble. His nose is a little too like rounded to be Kurt Cobain, but he's got that Kurt Cobain vibe going on. He's like if Kurt Cobain never formed Nirvana with Dave Grohl, and he just like became a hacker. Anyway, he cracks into the MJ files. One podcast, the Sex Files podcast, kept referring to them as the Michael Jackson files, so that's what I'll be calling them from this point on. They are files pertaining to the government involvement in UFO and extraterrestrial shit since Roswell, which I believe was in 1947. I could be wrong. Anyway, I think that's right. So, post-World War II, definitely. And he cracks into the files. He's elated and also scared because, as we learned, he doesn't take any precautions because, as he tells Mulder later, he did not expect to get this far. Just pretty sad and interesting. You see all these world leaders talking in their different languages. They're losing their shit. They're like, oh my God, someone's into the Michael Jackson files. I just love that. The Michael Jackson files. I picked it my daughter, and that's what we called it while we were watching this. Then you see like all these people calling each other, and they're just losing their shit. And the last person to get the phone in the phone chain is Smoking Man. Are we going to talk about this now? Smoking Man. First of all, this episode has a lot of great side characters in the show. It has Krychek, Skinner, the lone gunman, Smoking Man. And I'm really sad I haven't like done episodes focusing particularly on these characters yet, but I will. I'll get there. Especially Krychek. I don't think I've even mentioned him in any of the vlogs I've done, and that's a shame. As you will learn, I fucking love our little rat boy, our shitty little brother, Alex fucking Krychek. Love that guy. Love Nicholas Leia. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. Love him. Just A++. Love Krychek. So Smoking Man, it tells the room of people that he's like, that's the call I wish I never wanted to get. Like, oh, poor Smoking Man. Oh God, we're gonna talk about that motherfucker in just a little bit. So you see these people, they break into Kenneth Suna, who is called Thinker. They break into his home. He has dipped. And then you see Mulder. There's our spooky boy. We wondered when he'd fucking show up. So, oh, my wrist is cramping. So, I'm inside the house, by the way, because it's pouring down rain outside. So, Mulder is taking a pill. He's drinking a glass of water. He obviously doesn't feel well, which we'll talk about in a minute. And the lone gunmen show up. Our 3 sons are here. We love them. I love my three boys. They show up and they tell Mulder, you know, this Suna guy, the Thinker, he's trying to contact you. And you hear a gunshot, and the lady down the hall has murdered her husband, which seems like a really random thing, but it'll come back, and it's actually pretty clever. Before we go any further, I want to state that this episode is co-written, and I put the biggest fucking air quotes around co-written, by Chris Carter and David Duchovny. If you want to know my opinion of David Duchovny's writing, watch my vlog on Hollywood AD, which is in my playlist if you want to check it out. But I don't think David Duchovny had so much a hand in actually writing this episode as just maybe contributing ideas. It's one of those things. Kind of like the episode Endgame. So, whew, that's good. So, gotta get my thoughts in order. So, they're like, hey, this Suna guy is trying to contact you, and, so he goes off to the U.S. Botanical Gardens, and, I love these episodes so much. I have written so much fan fiction around these episodes, either taking place in the future and referring back to them, or in the case of the Hostine family, like Mulder and Scully revisiting them. But I did write a fic where Mulder and Scully go on a date at the Botanic Gardens. It just looks very pretty. And I hope they did at some point. So he meets the Thinker there. And the Thinker, he's like, whoa, you look like Kurt Cobain, which is exactly what I would say. Mulder doesn't really say that. And he gives him the digital tape. He tells Mulder, look, just make sure these bastards answer to the people. And I like the Thinker. Man, I wish he was a recurring character. He's so good. Even the actor who plays him is just fantastic. And then, as the podcast Fox Mulder is a Maniac so glibly points out, Mulder takes it to his office and puts this tape with these highly classified digital files on it into his work computer. I'm like, Mulder, why? Why, man? Scully shows up. Mulder says, hey, Scully, are you familiar with the 10 Commandments? And Scully's so desensitized to Mulder's behavior at this point. She's just like, do you want me to recite them? As people have pointed out how fucking erotic that sounds. And I want to write a fic where it's like, she says that to him and they end up fucking. So, whatever. So, X-Files After Dark. So, she comes in, he says, like, hey, these are these highly classified files. Jillian's acting. Holy shit. I'll praise it in every review I do. Like, I can't put words to it. You see the fear come over Scully's face. She's like, oh my God, what the fuck has he done this time? Like, he's going to get us all killed. You see that look come over her face. And then Mulder pulls up the files. They are in another language, and he has a goddamn hissy fit, which Mulder's so good at doing. But he gets up, he knocks the keyboard off the desk, and he says, it's gibberish, which is a pretty fucking racist thing to say, Mulder. Anyway, Scully looks at it and she's like, Mulder, I think this is encrypted. I think it's in another language. And again, instead of Mulder, like, calming down and listening to the woman who literally has all the answers, he says, like, it's a joke. It's a bad joke. I'm like, no, Mulder, like, step out of your little white man bubble for 2 seconds. This is just another language, man, you racist motherfucker. So Scully says, I think it's Navajo. She tells about her dad showing her this language. It was the only code that the Japanese could not break during World War II. And of course, Scully, her dad shows her this one time when she's maybe 7 years old, and she immediately remembers it. Scully is like a low-key, like, linguist, like in Unruhe. She takes one course of German in college, and she just can speak it fluently years later. She's an FBI agent. So, Scully's like a low-key linguist. Oh my god. Scully says, you know, we'd actually need a World War II code talker to break this code. And Mulder's like, well, find it. Okay, as you find out later, Mulder is being poisoned by the water in his apartment. Scully tells him it's because you got too close to the truth, but I'm like, is it? Because he came across these classified files, like, a long time after his apartment was being poisoned by this LSD amphetamine spiked water. So, like, what is it, the Oprah gift? Like, what is the truth? What is the truth? I say that a lot while watching the X-Files. It's just a fucked up experiment these people want to do on these innocent people. So, Mulder, his treatment of Scully, especially in the beginning of this episode, is, like, really hard to watch. He's yelling at her. He's just being, like, almost violent. You see, again, Jillian's acting. Like, give her all the fucking Emmys. Oh, I'm sorry. She won all the Emmys. She, like, you see this look come over Scully's face. I think at point she's afraid of Mulder. Like, he's, like, for Mulder to act so erratically, it scares Scully. Like, that is terrifying because she's become desensitized to this fucker. So Scully goes off and she meets Gwen, from the episode Shapes. It's the same actress. It's Renee Morsu. Again, like, all the side characters, all the side actors. God, they're so fucking good. And I know it's not Gwen, but I like to think Scully kept in touch with Gwen when she ran off from Montana in Shapes, and they're friends. So I'm calling her Gwen. I know it's not Gwen, but I'm calling her that. Anyway, she talks to Gwen, and Gwen's like, you know, I recognize some of the words in this, but you'll need an actual World War II code talker to, like, break this code to decode it. And she gets Scully hooked up with Albert Husting. As I told you, they'd come back. So, this is written by Chris Carter. And I think if you've watched my vlogs up to a certain point, you know what I think about Chris Carter's writing. This is one of my favorite episodes. But I don't want to give Chris Carter too much credit. First of all, I think the reason I love this episode is because the actors are putting their goddamn heart and soul into these characters. And not just David and Jillian. Well, Jillian. We'll get to some of David's brilliant acting later on. I say that with great sarcasm. But they're putting their heart and soul into these characters and just electrifying performances. And I believe that is why I love this episode so much, is the actors just putting their goddamn heart and soul into it. So Chris Carter has this habit of using fucked up shit as a plot device for his little alien story. And it's gross. The biggest example is him using sexual assault and reproductive trauma, sexual trauma, to further his little alien plot line when it should be the focus of a story. Like, if you're going to bring up fucked up shit, make it the focus so that you can properly and respectfully discuss it. Because people in the real world are affected by these things. In this case, it is the persecution of indigenous peoples. Horrific things happen to Albert Hostings and his family. And his community is put at terrible risk. And Chris Carter is using this as like he's viewing it as like this cute little way to, it's like a vehicle for his alien story. And that's gross. I mean, I know the episode Shapes gets a lot of hate, and I think some of it is deserving. But in the case of Shapes, the indigenous community is the focus of the story. That's what should be done here. It should be the focus of the goddamn story, instead of like this cute little alien government conspiracy. And then you're bringing the persecution of indigenous peoples into this story. Make that the goddamn focus and discuss it respectfully. I'll let you guess what Chris Carter does not do. That being said, as in the case with Shapes, watching this back when I was a little 12-year-old baby, seeing indigenous peoples in this positive light and seeing at least a little representation with these indigenous actors, especially Floyd Red Crow Westerman, who's just a hero of mine, like, that was cool. So, I mean, like, we're eating scraps off the floor, but like, it was amazing to see, you know. So this story jumps all over the fucking place. I want the SpongeBob narrator, the Jacques Cousteau-esque narrator, to say like, meanwhile, and just like get the little SpongeBob title card with the flowers. Meanwhile, we see Mulder's shitty dad. Oh, god damn, fucking Bill Mulder. He is at his house in Tisbury, because he's a rich bastard, just like Mulder is. And it is a pretty cool shot. He looks through the glass, the frosted glass on the front door, and you see the smoking man's silhouette. He opens the door, and you see the smoking man standing there, puffing like a goddamn freight train, and you see the American flag flying behind him. That's a pretty brilliant shot. I think this was directed by R.W. Goodwin, so props to you, Mr. Goodwin. Sheila Larkin chose well. I believe the actress that plays Maggie Scully was married to R.W. Goodwin at some point. So, he comes in, and you learn the smoking man was friends with Mulder's dad. Oh no, two white bastards, two old white biddies were friends. Who's surprised? Not me. So they're talking. Bill Mulder's day drinking, which is what he does best. And they're talking. And so here's the thing. As we learn later, Bill Mulder was a motherfucker. Is a motherfucker. And he abused his wife. He sacrificed his daughter to this government conspiracy. And then he blamed his 12-year-old son on her abduction. He's a shitty piece of shit. And that's just what he did to his family. That's not the possibly hundreds, thousands of lives he affected through his sketchy work, with the State Department. So he's a horrible human being. The smoking man is a villain, of course. It's the same way. As we learn later on, I don't hate the smoking man quite as much in this episode. And we'll talk about the smoking man in just a minute. But this scene frames Bill Mulder where, the show wants us to feel sorry for him. It wants us to have sympathy for this man. He's worried about his son. He's not even worried about Mulder. He's worried about his, quote, good name being tarnished. I'm like, isn't that the most old, rich white man thing you have ever heard? They're not actually concerned about the lives they've affected. They're concerned about their name and their reputation being tarnished. It's just fucked. Oh, God. And the show frames it in a way where, you should feel sympathetic for him. I don't feel fucking sorry for this man, okay? Show? And I'm not going to. And it's the same way with Smoking Man. As you learn later on in the show, the cigarette smoking man is a rapist. He's a medical rapist, and he's just a plain old fucking rapist. He does sexual assault on women. And the show frames it where, we should feel sympathy for him. He should be a sympathetic villain. Let me make something very clear, okay? When a villain engages in fucking rape, that is where my sympathy for them ends, okay? There's no reason they should get goddamn sympathy, because they don't deserve sympathy. But this is the way the show frames these old white bastards. Goddamn. So, this is a fucking problem, okay? Now, at this point, when I first watched it, I didn't know these things about Smoking Man. And in this episode, I'm going to say he's a pretty good villain. Now, this is in the context that I was watching this when I was 12, and I did not know what he did in the future. When that occurred, he stopped being a great villain because of the way the show frames him, of us wanting to feel sympathy for him. And that's stupid and fucked up, and it should not be. It's the same way with Bill Mulder. This guy abused his wife and his family and affected all of these innocent people's lives. No, I don't feel sorry for him. So anyway, he asks Smoking Man, he's like, what if this comes to life? What am I going to do? And then Smoking Man tells him what every powerful white man tells every other powerful white man. Deny everything. Because who the fuck's gonna believe women or minorities, right? Of course they're gonna believe us. Yeah, okay, this is very much like the men who were, crying about the Me Too movement. I don't feel fucking sorry for you, you goddamn rapists and molesters. Fuck you, man. Fuck you and every other white bastard. Rich white bastard. So, then you see, Mulder, and Mulder encounters Skinner in the hallway, and he just punches him. He just punches his boss in the goddamn face, knocks his glasses off. I would break this fight scene down between Mulder and Skinner, but you need to listen to Fox Mulder is a Maniac. They're not a sponsor, but they're brilliant. Their episode on Anasazi, they break it down, this fight scene, shot by shot. They do the same thing with the fight scene between Mulder and Krychek later on, and it is brilliant. I can't do it justice the way they do. Just go listen. It's so good. They said it's like when Skinner holds Mulder in that choke hold, they say it's like giving medicine to a cat. It's a delight. That's nice. Anyway, Then Scully is called in to atone for Mulder's fucking mistakes, which is, oh, that trope just rubs me the wrong way. Like, let's blame the woman for Mulder's bad behavior. Like, god damn. Scully had nothing. Scully didn't punch Skinner. Like, make Mulder answer for that. Fuck you guys. So Skinner has like this giant mark on his cheek. And Chris Carter couldn't do anything intentionally clever or funny, but that is unintentionally hilarious. It reminds me of the scene in Pusher, where Holly kicks the crap out of Skinner. Like, poor Skinner, he's always getting beaten up. Like, give our FBI dad a fucking break. So, Scully's called in. They're like, would you lie for your partner? And she's like, motherfucker, am I accused of lying? Then she goes to Mulder's apartment. Mulder almost shoots her. Like, Scully, don't sneak up on him when he's sleeping. You know this motherfucker's crazy. So, Mulder yells at Scully some more. He's like, when are you gonna know when, excuse me. Excuse me. Ooh, sorry. He's like, when are you gonna know when, when are you gonna have these files decoded? He's just yelling at her. And she's like, I'm working on it, So Mulder is being poisoned at this point by his water, and it's affecting his behavior. And I could blame him being mean to Scully, like, on that. But I thought about that. Excuse me. And, like, I've always been told, and I believe it, that when someone is on something that alters their behavior, like drugs, that it doesn't so much change their behavior as bring their regular behavior or raw emotions that they're suppressing up to 11. And I believe this is true. I mean, Mulder's behavior is erratic anyway. Okay? Like, his behavior is irrational anyway. This is just cranking it up to 12. Like, that's what I believe. So I can't completely blame his behavior on the drugs. Like, and then you get this heartbreaking scene where Scully's like, these files, is it worth it? She's like, our lives are going to be torn apart. Not just their lives, as you will see in the next episode, The Blessing Way, the lives of her family is just going to be ravaged. And she's like, is this worth it? And, like, you see that sentiment from Scully. I believe Scully became an FBI agent to advocate for victims. She could care less about the fucking paranormal or whatever the hell. Like, and she gives this sentiment many times over the course of the show. She's like, this is not worth it. Just having our lives and the lives of everyone we love just destroyed. But then Mulder immediately, he doesn't even stop to consider her. He's like, yes, it is. We'll sacrifice any goddamn thing. Like, it's easy to see Mulder as, like, someone who cares about Scully because he will go to the ends of the earth for her, but only when he's afraid of her being taken away from him. Mulder's great at the grand gestures, but he's terrible being a partner, either an FBI partner or later on a romantic partner to Scully, or just a friend. He sucks at it because he cannot do the good things for her day to day. He cannot be unselfish unless she is being about to be taken away from him. Like, okay, people talk about Mulder in season 11. Oh, he's so sweet. Like, he puts Scully first. He does that because he's scared of losing her. Don't think for a moment he will not go back on his bullshit when she's back with him. if there was a season 12, do you really think Mulder would, like, stop his addiction chasing the truth? No, he wouldn't. He'd be right back on his bullshit. And we've seen that before, like at the end of season 4, after the cancer arc. You know, like, we have Redux 2 in D2 where he's right back on his bullshit. Don't tell me for a minute he will not. And again, like, this is just bringing out Mulder's normal behavior. And again, there's the argument that Scully followed him willingly, which is true. And I sent out a tweet a couple months back and I said, you know, Scully followed Mulder. You know, that was her choice. But you know what else was a choice? Mulder taking her for granted, which he always does. Like, there's never a moment outside of Scully, like, he's afraid of her being taken away from him. That's the only time Mulder does not take her for granted. He will put his desire for the chase ahead of her, ahead of everything every time, because Mulder's a goddamn addict. Okay, that's just, he's an addict. He's addicted to the chase, chasing this stupid quest for validation, which he'll never have. And it's heartbreaking to see that. He immediately tells her, like, yes, your life doesn't matter. That's what he's telling her. She's like, I put my job in jeopardy to lie. And he's like, well, sucks to be you, I guess. Like, these drugs are just bringing out, it's bringing out Mulder's normal behavior. Like, that's just how he is. So, it's going to be one of those episodes. Mulder puts the X in the window, which is a red herring. Like, X never shows up. X is like, let this motherfucker handle it on his own. I love Mr. X. He's just Stephen Williams, man. I love him in everything else. Love him in the Blues Brothers. We'll have a Mr. X episode. He's just cool. I fucking love Mr. X. Anyway, he does not appear, so don't get your hopes up. And, Mulder's dad calls him. He's like, Fox, you need to come see me. And I'm like, motherfucker, you're at Martha's Vineyard. Can you, like, tell him something over the phone? It doesn't even have to be something that's, like, sensitive. You could just say, hey, if you hear, like, rumors about me, they're not true. Like, that's all I had to say to him. But anyway, Mulder, who's, like, tripping balls, drives. One thing Fox Mulder is a Maniac podcast pointed out is Mulder being in these inebriated states in this episode and in the episode Demons, he's driving. He could fucking run over a pedestrian at any moment. And that's something I never considered. So fuck you, Mulder. So, he does drive in this state. Fuck you, Mulder. To see his shitty dad. There is a really clever touch. He meets his dad, and he goes to shake his hand, and his dad pulls him into a hug. And that's a great callback to the episode Colony, where when Mulder meets his dad, he goes to hug him, and his dad, like, very coldly shakes his hand. That's the only good thing Bill Mulder has ever done. Ever on this show. Fuck that guy. I hate him. This is 48 minutes. We gotta move it along. So, he's telling Mulder this long and fucking convoluted thing. And I know later on it's like, is it hinted, ? That Smoking Man is Mulder's father? Is that ever fucking clear? Anyway, whatever. I can believe that Bill Mulder is his biological dad, because Mulder goes off on these fucking boring tangents where he's just talking and it makes no goddamn sense. So I can see, like, how someone would assume they are biologically related. So he tells Mulder, he does say, you're going to hear the words and they're going to make sense. And Mulder's like, what words? And he's like, the merchandise. And that will come back. And I will give Chris Carter that. Like, that's pretty clever. Like, how that term is brought back. And then Bill Mulder goes in the bathroom. And he opens the medicine cabinet mirror. And then he shuts it. And Krychek appears like fucking Bloody Mary in the mirror. I love it. He's just like brooding in the shower. He's like, staring nefariously, like that scary YouTube video with the man staring nefariously at you. So Krychek shoots him, and Mulder hears it. He goes in there. Bill Mulder's dead, and I don't fucking feel sorry for him. Fuck you, Bill Mulder. I will never feel sorry for you, man. So Mulder puts him on the couch. He calls Scully. Scully's like, oh my God. Her reaction is Mulder shot his dad. That's her reaction. She's like, and again, it's like a callback to her like feeling afraid around Mulder. She's like, he killed his old man. Like, that's her reaction. Scully tries to cover up the crime, ? Which is very troubling, Dana Scully. But, you know, she wants to venerate Mulder. So, vindicate, not venerate. Venerate means like you put someone up on a pedestal, but like she wants to vindicate him. So, Mulder drives back to Washington again. He could hit anyone at any time driving in the state. Fuck you, Mulder. And Scully tucks him into bed, and it is sweet and borderline erotic. One of my kinks is like someone nursing someone else to health, and it hits all of it. I mean, it's not creepy. Like, it's never like, it's not like fucking Diana Fowley in season 7 where she's like molesting Mulder while he's like not himself. Like, it's very innocent and chaste, but it's still like it hits that vibe. She puts him to bed, and she says, it's okay, it's gonna be okay. And I just love that. It's so sweet. Scully's maternal nurturing side. I always love to see Mama Bear Scully. So good. So the next morning you see Mulder, he's like, you see his like junk sticking out of his panties, and I'm like, what are you doing, show? It's like the Speedo shot in Dwayne Barry. I'm like, what's going on, show? What the fuck are you doing? Like, are we watching the X-Files? Are we still watching the X-Files? So you can see my daughter's stuffed animal collection and my hyena painting. Hey, I love my hyena painting. So Mulder, Scully has taken his gun, and she is having it seen to by ballistics at FBI headquarters, at Quantico, maybe, ? To see, like, is his bullet the same as the one that tried to kill her when she went into his apartment. She's assuming it's the same person that killed his father. Again, Scully, intuitive baby. We love her, right? Like, solving the goddamn case through just sheer intuition. Mulder calls her. He's like, you took my gun. She's like, she does this little thing. They argue like 7th graders for a while. And then he says, you've been watching me this whole time. And then he says, taking your little notes. There was an artist on Tumblr that drew that. It's so good. They did it like in this kind of like Phineas and Ferb like style. It was good. It's like little notes. So good. I want to draw it too. So Scully says like, I'm trying to vindicate you, motherfucker. And of course, like, again, like, oh no, Scully, not Scully doing all the goddamn work. Mulder does fucking nothing in this episode. I know Mulder's lazy and stupid and incompetent, but like, holy shit, like, he doesn't even try to investigate in this episode. Scully's doing all the goddamn work in this episode. So, Mulder goes back to his apartment. He sees Krychek and he loses his fucking shit. He attacks Krychek. They have this wonderful fight. Again, listen to Fox Mulder is a Maniac. They break this fight down shot for shot, and I can't do it justice. Just listen to them. They're not a sponsor, but it's so good. I can't do it justice. And Scully appears. She's like, don't shoot him, Mulder. And he's like, I'm going to shoot him. And she's like, no, you're not. And she shoots Mulder. I love Krychek's reaction. He looks at Scully like, oh my god, I have been afraid of the wrong agent all this time. Like, this woman will fucking drop me. He runs away with his wonderful 90s hair. And, Scully puts Mulder in her car and drives him all the way to Farmington, New Mexico. Which is just the most metal thing. You see it earlier in the episode where he comes into her apartment. She's like dragging him. Her little body can hardly hold on to him. I see this like going cross country with him in her car. Like she's just dragging him in and out of truck stops. Like this tiny woman. People are like, do you need help, ma'am, with your inebriated boyfriend? Mulder wakes up. And the first thing he sees is Floyd Red Crow Westerman looking down at him very pensively. And if I woke up and saw that, I'd be like, I think I'm dead. I think this is the afterlife, and this is God. Floyd Red Crow Westerman is God. He's a old, wise Lakota grandpa. Like, that's who God is. Yes, I fully support this headcanon that God is Floyd Red Crow Westerman. It's like Morgan Freeman in Evan Almighty. Like, that's God. That's God. So, then Scully appears, and at that point, if Gillian Anderson and Floyd Red Crow Westerman were looking down at me, I'm like, okay, I'm dead, and I'm happy. I have went to heaven, obviously. Like, good to see you two. Like Jillian St. Peter, she's like, lets all the people in the gate. And then Betty White shows up, and I'm like, and then Jimi Hendrix is there, and I'm like, yeah, okay, great. I'm fine with being dead. Just send a message to my relatives. I'm happy. I'm vibing with all of my favorite people. So, actually, Mulder's not dead, and he tells Scully, he's like, you shot me, and she's like, yes, I did, motherfucker, to clear your goddamn name. And she gives him a glass of water. Again, it's very erotic. They start talking, and Albert Hosteen is sitting in the corner, like, helping Scully decode the files, because he is the World War II code talker, as we find out. And he kind of looks back at them with this look, and he's like, oh my god, what the fuck? He's like, what have I gotten myself into? These two motherfuckers are nuts. Like, he has that look on his face. It's very good. He tells Mulder, he's like, you're lucky she's a good shot. And Mulder's like, or a bad one. And Scully has this little smile. She's so shy. It's very cute. Anyway, Mulder tells Scully thank you. And I think it's the only time in the series he tells her thank you. This woman who does all his work, there's no way he would have progressed on the X-Files if she hadn't have helped him. And he tells her thank you. And I really believe it's the only time in the show he tells her thank you, is this point. I think that's the only time he tells her. I'm sorry, she saves his life time and time again. And this is the only time he tells her thank you. And she's like, you're on your own with this one. I got to go back to Washington and face hell or high water. And she tells him, she's like, my name is in those files. And I need you to figure what the fuck is going on there. Which brings up an interesting point. Mulder, people play the trauma Olympics with Scully and Mulder. And I'm not even going to be one of those people that says it doesn't matter who suffered more. It does matter. Scully suffered more because Scully suffered firsthand. She was medically raped. She was sexually assaulted. Her health, her fertility. 2 of her children are sacrificed to Mulder's quest. And this government conspiracy that's going on. And there's no way you're going to look at Mulder who, like, he lost his sister, he lost his sister and his father, but these things were not done to him personally. He wasn't raped. 2 of his children were not, born of rape and then taken from him. he didn't lose his health or his fertility. The Sex Files podcast says he could walk away from this at any time. Scully can't. Like, Scully knows she has to figure this out, you know, for her own well-being, and that's really sad to see. This is an hour. Only my Paper Hearts vlog has gone on longer than this. So, Mulder gets on Eric's motorbike. Before that, he has this talk with Albert Hosteen. It's a lot like Simba's talk with Rafiki in The Lion King, where he's like, you can either the past, you can either run from it or learn from it. And then he hits him on the head with a stick. I only wish Albert Hosteen would like smack Mulder in the gourd with a stick. I want to animate that and put the audio from The Lion King over it. Someone did it with Lion Blaze and Jay Feather from Warrior Cats. It was very good. And he asks Mulder, he's like, are you willing to sacrifice yourself to the truth? And it reminds me of the scene in One Breath where X tells Mulder, he's like, you're a goddamn schoolboy, but you can't do what I do. You can't look these terrible truths in the face. You're just not strong enough. And again, that's a callback. Like, Mulder's on a quest for validation, which he never receives. He's willing to put everything, Scully included, you know, at risk for that, but he never achieves it. And that's really fucking sad because Mulder's an addict and his addiction's never addressed in the show. So, he gets on Eric's motorbike and it's really cute. He's riding like behind him and they get to the quarry. Mulder goes in the train car and he sees all these fucking bodies stacked on top of each other. He calls Scully from inside the train car, which pisses me the fuck off because Mulder can get cellular reception in 1995 in a train car in the desert, buried in the desert, and I cannot get reception in the year of our Lord 2022 in my home. So, you know, fuck that. Fuck you, Mulder. So, he tells Scully, like, these are aliens. And she's like, are you sure? And again, like, the show never tells you for sure. Later on in the episode, Nisia? I think that's how you pronounce it. You see that, like, these could be extraterrestrial hybrids, or they could be people with Hansen's disease. Like, we don't know. And again, like, this show, who people always say, like, Mulder's right all the time. Is he? Like, you never, like, the show never tells you one way or the other. Like, are there aliens? Are there not aliens? We don't know. Are these people aliens? We're not sure. The show's never going to tell you for sure. But, you know, Mulder's right all the time, so whatever. Fuck you. Anyway, fuck these people. So, Smoky Man shows up. And I love Eric's reaction to Smoking Man. He's like, boy, where's Mulder? And he just, like, stares him down. He's like, look, motherfucker. Like, I know about white men like you. And he's like, fuck you. And I love that. Dakota House. God, give him an Emmy. He's so fucking good. Like I said, he's acting circles around David Duchovny. And he has, like, a handful of lines. Great acting by David Duchovny. And when Mulder's in the train car, he's, like, looking at the corpses. He's like, he reacts like David, show some emotion, man. Like, it's just try to show some emotion, David. It's not hard. Just put half of your ass into it, man. That's all you gotta do. So, anyway, the soldier climbs into the train car. He climbs back out. He's like, he's vanished without a trace. And Smoky Man says, nothing vanishes without a trace. And that's a callback to Albert telling Mulder about the Anasazi people and how they vanished without a trace. They were abducted by aliens. I'm like, fuck you, Chris Carter. They were not. The Anasazi people were decimated by diseases brought over by European explorers like smallpox and measles. This happened across the continent of North America during the when Europeans first came to the continent, it's very sad. Like, some tribes never even met white people, and they were being just destroyed by their diseases. So, Smokey Man says burn it, which I think is like the show was like trying to make that his tagline, but it never caught on. It's like heroes in a half shell, the turtle power, Ninja Turtles. And they throw a torch inside the train car, and they burn it to smithereens. And that's the last thing you see, and it says to be continued. And we will be continued in the next vlog, where we will talk about the blessing way. Maybe. We will see. You guys have a wonderful day. It's raining like fury outside, but have a great day. If the sun's shining where you are, get out, enjoy this beautiful autumnal weather. Because there's a fucking tropical storm going through here, like it's goddamn June. So have a great day. Kiss your dog, hug your grandma. I love you.